Am I the asshole? Or do I just know what I'm talking about based on my experience and learned knowledge? You see, I see a lot of people will claim that I'm a jerk, I'm an asshole, because I know what I know and I believe what I believe. And they portray like they know what they know, or they know more than what they know, or they're a type of person that they really aren't, but wish that they could be. And they see that characteristic in me. An example, in my job, I work in a athletic sports complex in town. I have a 8,000 person stadium for football and soccer, a 1,000 person stadium for baseball, another soccer field for lower level games, and I take care of all that. And for many years, I took care of all of it by myself. And baseball fields are very high maintenance. A lot of sweat equity I put into that, with dragging in fields, raking baselines, raking and watering and tamping mounds and plates and bullpens and mowing and everything else. And for the most part, the coaches are like, hey, I respect him. He's doing a good job. He's keeping us up the best that he can, playing 150, 200 games a year on this field. It's looking remarkable for that kind of traffic. And I've been doing it for a number of years, so I kind of built up some skills, some tricks, some things that worked for me. I knew what to do on my field. And one year we got a new coach come in, coach one of the teams in town. And he came up to me, in between games as I'm working the field to get ready for the next game, and started talking to me and presented to me that he only knew two things: baseball and construction, and especially baseball construction. And that he didn't really appreciate the materials I used for my mound. He didn't like my sand clay mix that I had. I needed to use this other clay that was much better, and I needed to use this stuff that was mixed in, and blah, 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 because that's what I need to be. And I, trying to explain, hey, this is why I do it. It's me alone, and this, I've used the other stuff. I've learned by trial and error. This is the best mix for me. It helps me dry out real quick. I can keep it watered and moist as much as I needed. Didn't want to hear it, and he thought, you're just wrong. I'm like, I agree to disagree, but that's fine. You do what you want to do. So, and we kind of, got along fine. And then a year or so later, after he's been in town, he calls me up and says, hey, can you help me with my mound? I need to rebuild my mound. It's falling apart. I'm like, sure, more than happy to help. So I go over and I start walking up to his field, and I can tell daily maintenance wasn't being done. So I already knew right there that the man that knew a lot about baseball maintenance and construction didn't know much about it, or just didn't want to do it because his field wasn't in the greatest of shape. And we get up and we start working on the mound, and he didn't have a clue what he was doing. I had to teach him how to build it up, how to get to the right height, how to make sure that stays there, the right slope. Everything's very technical on this. There's certain dimensions you have to follow, certain heights, certain slopes, grades, everything else that have to be spot on. And I bring the tools that I usually use and the devices that I've built and constructed over the year to help me get into the right everything on it. And we get her built. And afterwards, I kind of noticed something. There was a change in dynamic in the way we interacted with each other. He wasn't, from that point on, anymore telling me how I was doing my job wrong or what was best for the fields. He understood. I knew what I was talking about. I knew what I was doing because I had the experience. I had the sweat equity built into it, and he didn't. He didn't have the knowledge, the skill. He could outcoach me any day in baseball. I give him that. But maintaining the field and building it, I knew. And I find this to be true in many different aspects and experiences I had in my life. I've had people question my integrity. And then when we start exploring my integrity and seeing their integrity, we find out that they're usually they have no integrity themselves. And it gets exposed. And I think that's kind of the lesson that I've learned throughout life that makes me the asshole in the I am the asshole situation, I guess, is that these people that come out and boast and brag about how much they know, how good of a person they are, what they knew, tend to be quite the opposite of that. And it's usually a red flag when people start telling me that I'm the most honest person in the world. I'm the most integral person in the world. I'm like, all right, I know exactly who you are. And I've seen it throughout my life. I've seen it in the faith, in my Christian faith, when I had pastors telling me that they had the example of the moral way of living life and to get to eternity. And then I see that them and their staff do not uphold a good moral standard. It may be a Christian moral standard, but it doesn't present equality or diversity or anything like that. It's very biased and very non-loving, for lack of better terms, on here. And it shows that their moral integrity is questionable at best. And leaving that and exposing that and seeing that changed the dynamic. People that used to have authority over me, when they see that I have found an actual moral compass in my life to want to be more loving, more equal, more empathetic and compassionate to all mankind instead of certain people that believe certain ways and oppressing others that don't believe like me. When they start seeing that moral compass develop, their authority backs off and they get a little sheepish around me and they don't expect, they don't challenge a whole lot, especially when I, challenge them back on what they speak and believe. And I think that's true for all aspects of our life. And I see it in our government now where you have a leader that's trying to say he's a great leader. And that's all it is him saying it. Every example that we've seen and proven so far is that he's anything but a leader. And I think it's getting exposed. Now, there's going to be diehards, just like in the Christian faith, that hold on strong and dearly to it because that's their identity wrapped up in there. But the people, the fringe people, are seeing it more and more every day of, this isn't right. This isn't smart. This isn't intelligent. This is just asinine what is being done and said and letting it be happen. In the world, the other world leaders are exposing it in the idea of tariffs when they're like, go ahead. It's only shooting yourself in the foot. You want to hurt yourself? Feel free to do it. And it's getting exposed in these arenas, in these areas, and people are seeing it. So if I think we just had patience and wait and just keep feeding rope, it's going to get exposed by more and more people. And you're going to see that dynamic shift greatly, where the power and the authority that it seems to be presented from this is going to fall on deaf ears, and a lot more deaf ears than what we've seen. We're seeing the number of deaf ears grow every day of people going, that's just stupid. And that's a key to everything, because then the tide's going to change and things will end up working out. We just need to have a little patience, a little hope, and a little unity amongst ourselves to understand we just got to keep pushing on. Love one another, present equality so that we're not fighting inside ourselves, but we're fighting against the oppressor that's trying to control us.